Good morning and welcome to chapel. Let's start with a prayer. God of life, you have promised to be with us every day, and especially in difficult times like these. Give us clarity in our minds, strength in our work, rest as we sleep, and peace in our souls. Be with those who need help more than we do ourselves. Help us to see what we can offer from your love, and make us grateful for all the ways that we are blessed every day of our lives. Amen. Now I'd like to welcome Mrs. Mason to share a few words.
If I was a superhero, one of my superpowers would definitely be organization. Each year, the Buell prefects come to learn this about me. In the fall, my ACES students get to listen to me excitedly talk about it. And every day, Derry, Mary, and Quinn benefit from, maybe suffer through, my organizational superpower. So last year, when I was doing a routine organization of my things, way before organizing became quarantine fashionable, I came across some old papers from high school. In these papers were quotes and poems that at the time struck me so much that I copied them down and saved them. I did another organization of my things at the start of the spring term, right when Rev Kirby was asking for speakers for upcoming chapel services. And I realized that one of the found high school poems is just as relevant and meaningful to me today. I knew that I wanted to share it with you. It's called How to Be Happy, author unknown. Are you almost disgusted with life, little man? I'll tell you a wonderful trick that will bring contentment if anything can. Do something for somebody quick. Are you awfully tired with play, little girl? Wearied, discouraged, and sick? I'll tell you the loveliest game in the world. Do something for somebody quick. Though it rains like the rain of a flood, little man, and the clouds are forbidding and thick, you can make the sun shine in your soul, little man. Do something for somebody quick. Though the stars are like brass overhead, little girl, and the walks like a well-heated brick, and our earthly affairs in a terrible whirl, do something for somebody quick. Yes, our earthly affairs are in a terrible whirl, but there have been rays of sunshine in my soul as I watch members of our community doing something for somebody. Like Nathan On, devoting himself to gathering much-needed medical equipment. And Aristo, Zoe, Braden, and the whole red and white staff putting together a new issue for us to read. Like Mr. Lewis, finding ways to bring sunshine to our faculty meeting. And the Stackelhouses hosting a virtual trivia night to bring faculty and staff together. Like Rev Kirby and her family delivering countless meals and supplies to homeless people in Providence. And like a mystery do-gooder who has been delivering painted, decorative clamshells to bring cheer to faculty families. As this whirl of a global pandemic persists, we may feel wearied and discouraged, more tired, and maybe even disgusted with life. As the poem from my high school days says, when we feel this way, do something for somebody quick. Reach out to friends and family. Call a grandparent who can't receive visitors in their nursing homes. Do something around the house for your family. Bake or cook something that will bring a moment of joy. Find your superpower in this time of terrible whirl and use it to do something for somebody. Because you know what? If we do this, we'll all be moving the world forward to a much better place.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Mason. And now we have a poem. It's entitled Why I Wake Early by Mary Oliver. Hello, sun in my face. Hello, you who make the morning and spread it over the fields and into the faces of the tulips and the nodding morning glories, and into the windows of even the miserable and the crotchety. Best preacher there ever was, dear star, that just happens to be where you are in the universe, to keep us from ever darkness, to ease us with warm touching, to hold us in the great hands of light. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Watch now how I start the day in happiness, in kindness. And now Kasamba Amiri will join us to share her chapel talk.
Okay. Hi. My name is Kasamba Amiri, and I watch a lot of TV. Today I'm going to talk about my favorite show and how it is translated into my real life. I'll start with my absolute favorite, One Tree Hill. Most of you know I have watched this over and over, and it's because it not only reminds me of what could have been, but what is. I look at the sappy friendships and relationships, and while it's a huge part of why I love One Tree Hill so much, it isn't the most important. I have a particularly favorite episode in season 3, episode 14. At this point, Brooke has to decide whether or not she wants to jumpstart her career in life at a big New York fashion show or go home to celebrate her last cheerleading classic with her friends. While it is very cliche, Brooke decides she wants to go home and spend what feels like the last remnants of her youth with those she loves the most. At the end, everyone is on stage dancing and enjoying each other's company and living in the moment. With the recent news about what the rest of our senior year has come to, this moment hit me kind of hard. The realization that my friends won't bust in my room to joke around anymore, or that we'll never have music and laughter-filled walks back to our dorms, Great Atlantic Grill dates, me reluctantly going to the beach, the sand gets everywhere, or just being the most obnoxious group of people in Walmart. While this isn't necessarily a forever goodbye, it hurts to know that new memories as high school seniors on our beautiful campus won't be formed. What I'm trying to say is that even if these moments will never transpire, it won't take away what the last 3.5 years have meant to me. It won't take away the fact that every moment we found a way to have a good time with each other. I found myself at SG, and I found what kind of person I am to other people. Freshman year, I was a complete mess. I had a massive attitude problem, and I was a horrible roommate. For reference, my roommates kept telling me how messy I was, so to retaliate, I dumped all of my drawers on the ground and said, if you want to see messy, I can show you messy. I used to throw paperback books at my roommate when she was snoring, sorry Ava, and I couldn't sleep. I would tell other people's secrets and not care about who I was hurting in the process. I know, it was bad. At the same time, I was an emotional wreck because I couldn't understand why I was so mean, or why other people could go and drop $200 in Newport and still be fine. My biggest feat coming out of freshman year is dealing with the fact that I was gaining weight. In the winter, I hated swimming, which used to be my favorite thing in the world. I, for some reason, left my work ethic in Georgia and wasn't doing the best I could. Of course, being in Buell and just around the general population at St. George's wasn't helping. I thought everyone around me had it down pat. They could manage working out consistently while doing great in school and managing healthy relationships and friendships. I felt like an outsider among every group of friends I tried to make myself a part of. I was miserable and I tried my hardest not to show it. But at least the only place I could go was up. I ended my freshman year with getting a picture with the love of my life, or what seemed at the time, who had just graduated, and I couldn't have been happier. Quick note here, he was a senior and he was going to play D1 football, so in other words, no chance. To keep up with the theme, I would most compare myself to a season 1 Lucas with a dash of Nathan, an outsider with a close friend and a parent who moved mountains to get me where I am. Like Lucas, I had to continue what I was doing to prove not only to myself, but to my dad that I could get through this by myself. I wasn't one to ask for help because I thought it would make me look weak in front of those who I so badly wanted respect from. That's where my Nate mostly shows. I went home feeling like maybe next year I would conquer the world. Sophomore year was honestly a blur. Starting with Block Island, I remember sitting on the rocks waiting for the trip to end while listening to music and bonding with one of my closest friends today. Even though I was never a fan of that trip, I won't forget how I felt like the year was off to a really great start. A season 3 Brooke, if you will. My grades continued to go down and the scale continued to go up. I went to counseling for a short bit of time and prepared to watch two of my best friends graduate. I thought I was making headway into becoming a better person and thus becoming a more integral part of the group of friends I longed to be in. However, I found out some devastating, to a young me, news that caused me to push myself further away from everyone around me. I also remember quitting swim and decided to manage the girls' basketball team, a new adventure that I thought would help me clear my mind. While I found out I was a little bit of a control freak when it came to the girls and the team and making sure that everything was in tip-top shape, I figured out that that is what I would much rather be doing than swimming. However, this is when I realized what seasonal depression was. My one-day hype about snow was quickly over as I dragged my feet every day to class in my afternoon navigations. By this time, I had a journal that I would write in any time, and I was feeling like I just needed to vent, and I felt like I had no one to vent to. I would always start by saying something like, "Hey girl," or "Hey stranger," because it felt like I was talking to somebody I hadn't seen in years. Springtime rolled around, and I was excited to bathe in the sun even if I didn't feel like I deserved to be around people. Prize Day rolled around again, I said goodbye, and I left home pimple-ridden and feeling like the GTA screen that said mission failed. I was closer with those I wanted to form a better relationship with, and yet I still felt very alone. I had made dramatic changes to who I was, and I definitely wasn't the same girl who threw her clothes on the ground to make a point. I started my year feeling like Brooke Davis, a girl who could do whatever she wanted if she put her mind to it, and ended feeling like Peyton Sawyer, a Debbie Downer who drove everyone away from her with her sad outlook on life. I'm not a big fan of hers. Junior year, the year everyone stresses about. I wasn't too stressed about it. I wasn't a straight A student for sure, but I felt pretty secure in the classes I was taking because I was able to be a part of the illustrious AmStuds program. This year was actually my favorite year. New juniors meant new friends. It was everything at the time, minus getting through YAWP. I was ahead of Insight and feeling good, captain of JV field hockey, and for somebody who rode the bench, I was pretty honored that my teammates voted me into a leadership position. While the extracurriculars were great, to be honest, the greatest part of junior year was really getting to know my friends and forming relationships with the faculty members who would help me get to where I am now. It felt easier to get through the daily stresses of life at St. George's. While it sounds kind of sad, it's hard to be a Black woman at SG. Having my girls to vent to and work through each other's problems was one of the only reasons junior year felt so much better than the previous years. It was also great that being bummed over junior ski weekend and community lunch was something I didn't do alone. Going to the library and coming up with new ways to explore Newport together was such a small thing in the grand scheme of life at SG, but it made junior year go a lot smoother. I kind of cruised through the year with the exception of some YAWP inconsistencies. I also knew I'd have my amazing advisor and the team that came with being a part of Insight, but up until the fall, I didn't feel like I really had my people. Anybody who watches Grey's Anatomy understands the weight of that statement. For my One Tree Hill people, I felt like Haley before she became friends with anybody other than Lucas. I think this is what hit me the hardest about losing my senior spring at SG. Besides all of the traditions we have lost, for me it felt like I was finally clicking with my Brooke and Peyton before we were sent home and forced not to see each other for a long time. Being at St. George's wasn't always great, as I'm sure many people in the community have heard me drone on about, but it was the times I felt my best when I was surrounded by my family away from home. Springtime rolled around again. I said goodbye to another one of my closest friends. After that, I felt pretty great. I was about to be a senior in high school, getting ready for the next chapter of my life, and I could not wait to do it with everyone. a season 4 Haley for reference. Senior year. Oh, senior year. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty rough. After daylight savings passed, other than the extra hour of sleep, which by the way, I didn't know was just a one-time thing. I thought it happened every day until the springtime. I felt like there was a huge bowling ball tied to my ankles every time my 8:25 alarm went off, hence why I was late so many times. It felt like every class I was a part of was in the same standstill moment. I have a joke that you have your people at SG once you order food together, and granted, there were Domino's nights for sure. But it felt as though the only time I was actually content was outside of my school obligations. Basketball season seemed to drag its feet, making 3 months feel like 3 years. Dinners became uniform, and there was one point where I checked in, turned all my lights off, played Lana Del Rey, and cried myself to sleep. Needless to say, I was not feeling it. However, I made a promise to myself that no matter how pointless or lame it felt, I would go to every school function I could. In the midst of all the I still managed to have a great time with my friends at dances and games, push out most of my homework, and found myself actually getting into a routine for my health. Everybody knows that the minute the first signs of spring started to show, aka the sun, I was a different person than the depressing mess I was in the winter. I actually smiled at the girls in my quad, shout out Og, and I couldn't wait for the joy the spring trimester was about to bring me. And then I'm pretty sure everyone is familiar with the next trend of events. To me, coronavirus was the equivalent of Chris Keller coming into everyone's lives. Once again, my One Tree Hill watchers know. And all of this brings me to now. At home with my dog, rewatching One Tree Hill yet again. If you take anything from my message to y'all today, it's that you have the utmost power in the things that you want to change. For me, I had to look at myself and understand that what I saw was not who I wanted to be. Take from St. George's everything you can. Whether it be study skills or a favorite place to eat or lifelong friends and support, SG gives you the freedom to not only explore the world, but to explore yourself. My utmost favorite thing about One Tree Hill is Nathan's character development. No matter who is around you or what you're going through, you are the writer to your own TV show. I know I am, and I wouldn't have had my pilot episode go any other way. I appreciate everyone who has gotten me here, from Ava, Ashley, Leia, and Shira, to Mr. Franco, Mr. Daring, and of course, Dr. Bullock. And to the class of 2021, please enjoy your senior year. Go to the events and senior teas. Talk to someone you haven't before, because in the blink of an eye, it can all go away. Before I leave, I want to end with a quote from the infamous Lucas Scott. Sometimes it's easy to feel like you're the only one in the world who's struggling, who's frustrated or unsatisfied or barely getting by. That feeling is a lie. And if you just hold on, just find the courage to face it all for another day, someone or something will find you and make it all okay. Because we all need a little help sometimes. Someone to help us hear the music in the world, to remind us that it won't always be this way, that someone is out there and that someone will find you. Thank you, and watch One Tree Hill if you haven't already.
Thank you so much, Kasamba. And now let us pray. Mothering God, wait with us in the darkest night of our fears as the unknown closes in around us. Mothering God, comfort us as terrors loom just beyond our sight, beyond reach, but pressing in. Mothering God, calm our spirits when the future remains distant and without form, yet stirs our anxieties. Mothering God, stay close, for sickness and death remain mysteries no science or study can quantify or contain. Mothering God, remain awake with us so that we might sleep, knowing that you are watching, that you are guarding, that we are safe within your hand. Amen.
Almighty God, the fountain of all wisdom, without whom nothing is strong, nothing is holy, we beseech thee to bless the members of this school with thy perpetual presence and prosper them in their work. Keep their hearts free from sin. May they be truthful and reverent in their speech, earnest and faithful in their studies, kind and considerate in their dealings with each other, and always ready to help the unprotected and helpless. Bless, we beseech thee, the teachers of this school, and impress upon them a due sense of the responsibilities of their charge. We pray that from these walls, students may go forth, generation after generation, well equipped for the battle of life, and ready to contend bravely for God and the truth. And this we ask in the name of him who died for our salvation, to whom be glory forever and ever. Amen.
Life is short, and we don't have much time to gladden the hearts of those who walk this way with us. So be swift to love and make haste to be kind. And may the blessing of God Almighty be with you this day and remain with you always.